you about a topic that is very important to every person in this community. That topic is you, the media, and the very important role that you play in ensuring that we in Windsor have a strong and vital democracy. Unfortunately, that media role in Windsor is very much under attack. There is a disease at the very top of the most dominant media in our city, a disease that is destroying one of democracy's most important safeguards, which is a properly informed citizenry. When I speak of the most dominant media in our city, I am of course speaking about the Windsor Star. Windsor's media situation is unique, located as we are against the American border, with an American media that pays absolutely no attention to Windsor politics. Our newspaper, the Windsor Star, likes to brag about having the highest reader penetration of any newspaper in Canada. Yet the reverse is true for our radio and television outlets, which face heavy American competition. The result is that when it comes to Windsor news and Windsor politics, the Windsor Star is a giant amongst the competing media. Further, as a one-newspaper town, we don't have the advantages of a city like Toronto, which has several newspapers, each with competing viewpoints. Nor are we like a London or a Waterloo with newspapers in neighboring communities with overlapping coverage areas. Due to these unique circumstances, the Windsor Star possesses a reach and an influence in our city that is unmatched. There is, however, a cancer at the Windsor Star, a conflict of interest in the coverage of municipal politics that is absolutely fundamental. This conflict of interest is corroding public life in Windsor. All of you here are aware, although many in this city are not, that the Chief of Staff in the office of the Mayor is the wife of the editorial page editor of the Windsor Star. Following his election in 2003, Eddie Francis hired Norma Coleman to serve as the Chief of Staff in his office, which she has done ever since. Throughout that time, her husband, John Coleman, has served as an editor of the Windsor Star. The resulting conflict has been obvious to everyone who has learned of the situation, and it has clearly become a factor in the Windsor Star's coverage of municipal affairs. Let me be clear about where this conflict of interest lies. It is not with Norma Coleman, who found employment running the Mayor's office. Rather, the conflict lies with John Coleman and the senior management of the Windsor Star. John Coleman could and should have been given another assignment, far removed from Windsor's municipal politics, where his wife's interests have been on the line for the last several years. Both CanWest Global Communications, which until recently owned the Windsor Star, and the new owners, Post Media Network Inc., are large organizations which could easily offer Mr. Coleman other challenges than the job he possesses as the boss of the Windsor Star's editorial department. That, however, did not happen, and many persons have noted over these last several years the fawning coverage the Star has given Mr. Francis. Throughout his tenure, we in Windsor have gone through the toughest times in living memory for most of us, and yet, save for the odd kvetching comment, there has been nothing but praise from the Windsor Star for the Mayor's performance. Windsor has led Canada's unemployment statistics throughout the Francis years. Bankruptcies have soared, home foreclosures and factory closures have been rampant, yet there has been nothing but praise from the Windsor Star for Mr. Francis. This has not been a situation where one columnist has been pro-Francis and another has been taking shots at him. What has been startling is that every columnist and the editorial board have been solid in their praise of virtually every policy that Mr. Francis has espoused. Further, this disease in the editorial department of the Windsor Star has spread to the news reporting side as well. We have been told by Star reporters that ideas on stories that might in any way be critical of Mr. Francis are almost always killed, that reports are edited and headlines are written with his interests in mind. A conflict of interest at the very top of the media hierarchy is an insidious thing. It has a corrosive effect on civic life. We have seen that here in Windsor. These two institutions, the Mayor's office and the Windsor Star, are together a very powerful force who have intimidated and shouted down many in this city. For my part, I blame Mr. Francis for creating this conflict of interest at the Windsor Star as much as I do Star management for falling into his trap. Mr. Francis clearly has sought to benefit from the Star's failure to adhere to the most basic standard of conduct, a standard that journalists routinely demand of public office holders. Now we are in a mayoralty election. The editor's wife will lose her job if Rick Limoges succeeds in defeating Mr. Francis. The Star's response has been unrelenting. When I came aboard the Limoges campaign 3 weeks ago, there was at least a hope that in the midst of an important democratic debate, the Windsor Star would conduct itself ethically and responsibly. Sadly, those of us on the Limoges campaign have now concluded nothing could be further from the truth. This campaign has been getting sucker punched by the Windsor Star at every turn. Examples abound, whether it's Graston's unceasing attempts to portray Mr. Limoges, a career banker and the author of Windsor's very successful fiscal fitness plan, as a stooge for profligate union spending, or editorial efforts to brand 6,000 manufacturing jobs recovered after Chrysler and GM emerged from a bankruptcy shutdown as evidence of the mayor's job creation prowess. In contrast, the Star ignored the Limoges campaign press release on the upheaval at the Windsor Essex Economic Development Corporation, the very body tasked with attracting new jobs to our region. Under this mayor, that body has gone through 3 boards of directors and 6 CEOs in 7 years, yet this newspaper offers no criticism. The examples of bias, misstatement, and partisan attack are almost too numerous to mention. It is time that the Windsor Star was called to account. There are 3 weeks left in this election campaign. Given the Star's behavior, we can wait no longer to make the public aware of this conflict of interest that lies at the heart of the Star's clear bias in this campaign. They say that sunshine is the best disinfectant. Hopefully, with this press conference today, we will bring lots of sunlight and succeed in letting Windsorites know about the conflict of interest that has corroded the Windsor Star's coverage of this mayoralty campaign. I am, however, also here today to announce that the Rick Limoges mayoralty campaign has instructed legal counsel to commence a complaint against the Windsor Star to the Ontario Press Council in respect of this conflict of interest. I firmly believe that both the professional journalists and the laypersons who make up the Ontario Press Council will regard the Star's position as cheerleader for a mayor who employs the editor's wife to be a serious breach of journalistic ethics. I also believe that the new owners of the Windsor Star, Post Media Network, Inc., will be less than happy with the conduct of the management of their new acquisition. Accordingly, the Limoges campaign will be submitting a letter of complaint to Post Media Network, Inc. Obviously, with 3 weeks to go in an election campaign, this campaign cannot afford to wait for legal redress for the wrongs that have resulted from this conflict of interest at the very top of the Windsor Star. It is for this reason that I, as chair of the Limoges campaign, am going public today with our concerns. I trust that you in the media will recognize the absolute seriousness of this complaint to our public life in Windsor. We need the air cleared. Rick Limoges is more than prepared to take on the incumbent on his record over the last 7 years and on the candidate's intentions for the future. We ask only that henceforth this debate occur in a fair and open manner. I know that you in the press want this to happen as well. Thank you for your attention today. I'll be happy to take your questions.